Hello everybody. Firstly, I'm just going to check, can you hear me? Because I know we've had problems before. I think we're good. Was it last week's stream or the stream before when I did a good couple of minutes monologue? I'm pretty sure you can hear me. Do confirm in the chat. But welcome to the Hot Wall. And as a bit of a bonus extra, there was some big news today, huge news in the football shirt world, which if you haven't seen already, get to Twitter and you will see. Gambling sponsors have effectively been banned, or they're going to be withdrawn from Premier League clubs from the 2026-27 season onwards. So huge change purely from a shirt collecting perspective, from an aesthetic perspective. It's a big win. It's a big win. Gambling sponsors are notorious for their clunkiness. Often they've been some of the ugliest sponsors. Not always the case, but certainly I'm excited. It's a good thing. Again, from a share perspective, clubs will again have some time to adjust, and I do like the decision from the Premier League and from the clubs. I don't know exactly who it was, but to essentially give clubs a few years to adjust, and I think that's good. Ultimately, that will help those clubs who have got deals in place and things like that. And I think there's 8 teams currently. But anyway, great news. So what do you think about those changes? What do you think about that big piece of news today? But good to see, again, for some reason the chat window is not working once again, which is annoying in all honesty, but I think it would just have to kick in. But welcome to Elijah and Brock and a few others as well. Elijah says, yo, new Corinthians kit for next season just got released. Has it actually, Elijah? Now, where can I see that? Because I would like to see that very much. Let me just try and look for Corinthians. I did notice the Gremio kit, which I quite like. Here we go. Here's Corinthians. Let's flip over. Let's flip the screen. Here is the kit. Pretty simple. Very simple. I do like the red outline on the swoosh. That's a very small detail. That does look good. It is essentially just plain. Unless there's a pattern in the Drive for ADV mapping there. It is quite basic. I do like it, but it's it's very, very plain. Maybe there's some good details. If there's a good internet detail, that helps, but largely pretty middling there. The away, again, it's a very classic design for Corinthians. A real shape. This template, this construction doesn't look good. So honestly, two decent shirts, but nothing spectacular. If we do have, I mean, it says mixed with subtle details. So honestly, this one might actually have more about it. So let's have a look. That's nice, but honestly, we see better quality details in the game currently. So decent, but nothing too crazy, nothing spectacular. Of course, again, we'll have to see a bit more pictures to fully judge. But good stuff. And Brock, good to see Brock. Brock says, I just ordered the 2020 Las Vegas Lights confetti shirt for $15. There's some really good deals on the website. It looks like only shipping to US. Want me to order and send you one? Have a look at the website. I'll have a look, Brock. Yeah. Do remind me, but I will have a look. $50. That's very cheap. I mean, even if just ship it over. Although what I will say is, if it's 2020, I'd be interested. That's before the Maber, isn't it? Because I wouldn't mind one of the Maber shirts. I quite like those ones. Albeit they did have quite an ugly gambling sponsor. But anyway, guys. As we get started, as people begin to filter through, I will do the usual reminders, and that is firstly to say that if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to Phil's Corner. We have content, we have regular streams, and longer form videos, short form videos, different types of unboxing videos, and that sort of thing going on the channel. So do join the community, join the channel. It would always, it means a lot to have subscribers. So thank you to all those who are currently subscribed. If you're new, hit the button, and also you can leave a like if you enjoy today's stream, and leave a comment in the video as well. Of course, if you want to leave a comment in the chat, the live chat, which you can access, and I'll see that, of course, and we can interact there. But also leaving a comment on the main part of the video does help with the visibility of the channel, of the video, I should say. But today it's going to be fun because we're looking at the various Adidas kits, and I'll just finish getting set up. But essentially, this is kind of a follow-up really on what we did last week on the last episode of the Hot Wall. If you remember, we looked at Nike shirts for the Women's World Cup, and there were some really good shirts. And in fact, if I take us to our screen now, you'll notice this is the current state of the Hot Wall. And it's worth mentioning that we saw a good variety of kits. Most notably, we did have a new inclusion in our top tier, our Volcano tier. Perhaps a surprise. My bias shone through, but I really like New Zealand's shirt there. There was also a lot in the Flames tier. It wasn't a correct, I think for Nike, there was a lot to appreciate, but it wasn't a standout collection by any means. But there were some really good ones. Shirts like Brazil and Portugal were really solid. I actually really like Nigeria's away as well. So lots of additions in the Flames tier. And I will actually say as well, it was funny because we looked at, or I ranked rather, England's shirt in the middle of the Flames tier. I'm actually going to do, I don't usually do this, but I really like the look of that one on pitch. And I'm actually going to slide this one up as high as here. Because I think, again, I don't regularly do this, but I did, honestly, when I saw that, it did look good. It did look really good. So that's going up a bit higher. And we will, at some point in the summer probably, do a bit of a retrospective. And I'll move a few bits up and down. Because, of course, as more shirts get released, as we start to see some of these new shirts on the pitch, that does change sometimes our thinking. But this is just my tier list, my personal tier list. My favourite shirts on the right side. Again, we've crashed. Apologies. Here we go. Favorite shirt on the right hand side, and my least favorite shirts on the left side. And there'll be different reasons. Sometimes it's just a really boring design. Sometimes it's a bad sponsor. My favorite shirt was very slow today, so hopefully it does start to pick up. But anyway, that's the list, and we're going to focus on Adidas shirts because again, we've not done Adidas's Women's World Cup shirts, and they've been out for a little while now. So it'll be interesting. We've had, again, it's been almost a month. I can tell you now, there's going to be some very, very good rankings here. It will not surprise you to hear that there's some which I really like, some which I think aren't quite as strong. And I will say, even though the collection probably got a bit more praise than Nike's, I don't think it was all one-sided. I actually would say Adidas is more flashy, and there were a lot of good decisions. I'm really glad to see a lot of patterns on the back, for example. But I think more than anything, Adidas's shirts had a very clear theme, and that was landscapes and iconic or interesting natural features of a particular country, whereas Nike's was a bit more, a bit more kind of less defined. So I think that helped Adidas's case in many ways. But if we just start with Columbus shirt, this was one of the standouts of the collection. Of course, not a traditional colorway at all, really, but a very, very powerful look. Certainly very, kind of almost, well, I don't even know what phrase I'm trying to think of, to be honest. I was going to say visually arresting. That sounds maybe a bit too intense, but it's intense and it's a lot. But I must say, I really appreciate the choice to have the various details, the applications, so crest, manufacturer logo, and the 3 stripes in that vibrant yellow. It really helps because the base, although it is quite busy, is largely quite dark. So I think from a color perspective, that's good. These details don't get muddled. And again, as I mentioned, the fact that the pattern goes on the back, albeit just a kind of exact, they've just flipped the pattern from the front, or rather just replicated it. I like this one a lot. This is just a replica. It is worth saying, of course, in Dryfit ADV, which is the player spec. These will look a little bit better. But this one is very, I think for me, it's got the flashiness, but I don't think I would put it much above the likes of the England shirt that we just talked about. Let me just get a new folder for us here. Day 6, or the 6th stream. So I like this one a lot. And I think, again, this one, I mean, there's some interesting, yeah, you can't help but be dazzled by the look. It's inspired by, I believe it's a river, which is colloquially known as the Rainbow River, I want to say, a river of 5 colours. There we go. It's pretty sweet. I mean, the thing is, I would expect this, and I think this already has, of course, been quite popular with collectors. It has that really, really distinct look. I think, though, so for me, when you've already got such a dynamic shirt, I'd love to see a bit more detail on the crest. And this is one area which actually Nike excelled over Adidas, and that Nike did a better job with their crest. Of course, again, this is just a replica, but yeah. And the other thing I would say, I think I want a bit more of the yellow. I'd probably like to see the yellow elsewhere on the shirt, maybe just to help, like, I don't know, something on the hem there. But anyway, I'm thinking, honestly, like, it's still a really, really cool shirt. It's a unique take, and I don't have a problem putting it as high as here. I really don't. I think it's, it compares very well. It's one of the best shirts we've seen. Andrew says, between this and Germany, it's the pick of the bunch for me. Yeah, honestly, that's very fair. I actually have another shirt which I like even more, which we'll get to shortly. But I do, yeah, I mean, this honestly, like, I think this kind of epitomizes the kind of pattern-heavy era that we're in. I think this is close to the peak of this kind of style, this approach, which you've seen from all sorts of brands and clubs. I think Adidas have really tapped into that, and it's great. And this is an away shirt. This collection feels like a collection of third kits. They're not necessarily traditional in colorway or anything like that, but it's really sweet. Brock says Japan Volcano View will come to Japan very soon. So no spoilers, Brock, but I do like Japan's. Is it Volcano though? We will see. I feel like I'm being quite stingy this year. I mean, I'm setting us up for the long haul, guys. We're in the middle of April. We've got a long way to go. This is pre-release season, really. We've had, releases from the Americas particularly, and a bit from Japan. But anyway, Sweden's away shirt was one of the least obviously exciting releases, and I think it's fair to say that compared to some of the other shirts like the Colombias and the Germanys of the world, this one is a lot less intricate. And other details like the backnote detail, quite simple. I think that could be better. It's worth noting actually on the Colombia's one. And again, this is just a replica, so we have to sometimes be careful because sometimes details are missing on replicas. Looking on here, there wasn't a backnote detail, which is a shame because you always like to see that. So that is there, but it's very simple. And it's got the same trick as the Colombian, and the pattern is just the same on the back, but at least it's there. That's good. You'd rather it was reflected or a bit more interesting, but I do like the overall look of it, even though it doesn't have that kind of that intricacy. And again, I think this was supposed to be based on like a glacial river. I think that was the story with this one. So this one's not nearly as exciting as some of the other ones. But it is actually really good. I don't think we should kind of brush over it completely. I actually think the most interesting aspect for me, which I often look to, is the colour. And again, we're just basing this on the replica product shots, so there's a few caveats here. But it's a very soft yellow, much softer than you'd expect, and you can actually see it illustrated. And again, sometimes I'm caveating this because sometimes it's just bad lighting or whatever. But to me, that looks very much different to the more traditional, more kind of true yellow, which is seen on the crest. And I think it's the same with the Adidas logo. So whilst I think that's quite an interesting change, and I don't mind that because again, you're used to seeing that sort of yellow, it does then clash with the crest. And again, the crests aren't that strong on these Adidas shirts, at least at the replica level. So that just stuck out to me, and I don't think many people touched on that, but I do think that is a surprising, sure, as surprising as a yellow can be on a Sweden shirt. It's a very pale yellow. Honestly, I think if the crest matched that, that would be stronger. And again, I think the pattern is a bit too basic. That being said, though, it's still, I think it's still very decent. I would probably still put it kind of mid, maybe even high candle. I think kind of mid candle feels about fair. So it's certainly not a bad shirt. And even though thematically this would fit in the ice cube tier, given that it is based on ice cubes, not on ice cubes, on glaciers. Oh, I've got ice cubes on my mind. I think, yeah, mid to high. Like again, my Photoshop's very slow. I hope this isn't. There we go. Come on, son. There we go. I've recently upgraded my PC, but I still need to upgrade my hard drive. And that is going to help, I think, with the speed of everything. But anyway, that's a side note. Yeah, I think, honestly, like, it's a toss-up between this and the England shirt for me. So I think that feels good. But, not bad at all. It's worth saying I should have been changing, actually, our brand watch. This is, of course, where we're also tracking a brand's performance relative to all their releases, which is a bit of a kind of general topic. But given how much I like the Columbia's one, Columbia shirt, we can move Adidas up there. Will they kind of get over this pack of teams? Very much, it's very bunched here. Will they by the end of today? Quite possibly. Just as more people coming in, guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Phil's Corner Live. Be sure to leave any comments in the chat. I'll get back to you as we go through. And if you agree or disagree, I always love to hear your guys' opinion, the community's opinion. Do stick it in. Now, Belgium. It was interesting because I don't believe Belgium's shirt was actually featured in some of the main promo material. I think it's possibly because they're not at the World Cup. Is that what it is? I can't remember what the thinking was there exactly. This one I think is actually really nice. I really think this kind of aesthetic, I think it's based on clouds, but again, apologies if that's not the case. It's been a few weeks, I've forgotten what some of these are based on. I do actually really like this one. I think what I like about this the most is that I appreciate the use of the relatively plain pale blue. It's not overly busy. I think some shirts, the temptation is just to go all out with the pattern. And even on the back, the fact that there is some of the white element bleeding in is fine. Like that to me is a perfectly acceptable back compared to some shirts where they've got heavily patterned fronts or striped fronts, of course, and a plain back. But this one is fine. Like that to me is not a problem. Again, because you've got the pattern, it feels more organic. Andrew says Belgium looks like a map when you first. It doesn't look a lot. It does look a lot like a map. It does. But I really like it. I really like the aesthetic. I think given the crest there, obviously draws your attention because it is in the flag colours there and the bronze or the gold. But that's fine. I think this is a really smart shirt. I think this is actually underrated again because it wasn't included in some of the promo material. It kind of flew under the radar. I would honestly put this one pretty much as high as Columbia. Like I think maybe even is this Volcano tier? I think it might be, guys. I actually do like this more than the Columbia one. And I mean, there's not many places to go, is there? Above. Well, I'm just having a look here. Let's have a look. Let's compare. Would I take it over the Philadelphia shirt? I think it compares very similarly to the Philadelphia Union shirt. It has a similar aesthetic. That was the Simpsons intro clouds, wasn't it? I think, you know what, guys, this is going in the volcano tier. I really do like this. I think, again, in this era of heavily patterned shirts, sometimes it's actually the ones that hold back a little bit. I think it's really good. I really like that shade. I think that kind of, yeah, quite a kind of fresh blue. I don't think I'd take it over the Kiwi shirt, but I'm going to stick it there. Maybe let's just give ourselves a bit of space and just kind of move some of these shirts, because we are, you know, we're getting a bit tight on space here. So let's just do that. Yeah, that feels better. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Hello, Reagan. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Phil's Corner. Good to see you. And Brock says, I got the 2022 Argentina shirt with 3 stars in World Cup. Winners patch and Messi names it. Sadly only available in replica. Hey, that's not a bad shirt to get, is it? That is really cool. So guys, I really like the Belgian shirt. Again, not a lot of talk about this one online. But I think it's fair to move up Adidas. And it's very bunched in this area. They'll keep moving up and down. Let's stick them there. We probably need to spread them out a bit, but I'll do that in a bit. Yeah, Belgium, one of my favourites of the collection. And again, I think a shirt which didn't get a lot of love, or as much love as it deserved. Great to see the taping on the 3 stripes. Of course, it helps seeing it in dry for ADV here. But yeah, Germany next. And this is another really strong design. I mean, from a colour perspective, this is so rich. I absolutely love the kind of tones they've gone for here. It is an absolute stunner. I think the thing is, it's one of those shirts which is good from a distance, up close. It covers all the bases. The secondary colour, or the accent colour of the very kind of bronzy gold shade, is absolutely beautiful. It looks good. It pops against that dark base, and we crucially once again have the pattern on the back. What I like is actually I think you know, it is the same kind of trick, and they've got the same pattern essentially on the back, but they've kind of lowered it a bit so that at least it feels a bit more dynamic compared to some of the other shirts. It looks great. I mean, it's no surprise. I think this one is absolutely pushing. Well, I think we can sneak this in the volcano tier. If I say sneak, I would actually take it probably over the Belgium shirt. It is good. I'm not going to mess around here and tell you otherwise. It's glorious. I think the main thing with this one is, you know, we've seen, of course, like many of these Adidas shirts are completely kind of outside of a country's typical colorway. But green, of course, is a typical Germany away colorway. But it's a fresh take on that. This kind of Black Forest inspired look. It hits all the right notes, guys. I mean, to be honest, it is one of those where I wasn't 100% sure if I'd put it in the volcano tier coming into today, but just seeing it again, you know what, it's better than the New Zealand shirt, to be honest. I can't lie. I think it deserves. I mean, yeah, maybe. Let's go here. I might honestly move it up further as we get through the year, but it's just a really good shirt. The colours just suit Germany so well. Says Andrew. I agree. Brock says, I love Germany's used to live in Black Forest. Yeah, I mean, this is great. This is a great take on Black Forest. And Reagan says, you're rating New Zealand kit highly. That's what I needed to hear. I don't know if that's positive or negative, Reagan. If it's negative, I will plead my case and say there is a bit of personal bias. I am half Kiwi, although I do really rate the shirt, so I will stick by my guns. But if it's positive, you can stay. You can stay either way, Reagan. You can stay either way. It's good to have a bit of lively debate, isn't it? Love the Germany shirt. It's really good, guys. Probably the only... Well, I'm being really picky. I don't love the backnet detail. That could be better. I'd almost rather not have that. I just think that's a really kind of cheap look. And the choice of the hem colour is interesting. I don't mind it. You can obviously see what they've done because it does match the lighter portion of the pattern. But it's, you know, it's not my favourite, and they could have added a detail in there. Again, we're being really picky, but that, you know, there's a reason I think this shirt isn't like right at the top of this tier. I'm being picky. It's a beautiful shirt, one to look out for. Now we come to Spain. I'll be honest, guys, this is one of my least favourites from the collection. Now, it's a very interesting look. The base colour of the shirt feels like a couple of the recent Spain away shirts we've seen for the men's and women's teams. But it's the kind of coral pattern which doesn't really do much for me. I think both from the aesthetics of the coral, it looks a bit like it's a similar issue with the Sweden shirt in that I don't love the kind of definition of it. Although there's more here. It's more kind of intricate, but I don't. It honestly ends up looking a bit half baked. I think I'd rather, you know, something like the Germany shirt. That pattern is a bit more abstract. Same with the Belgians. When you've got a bit more of a literal pattern here, try to nod to coral. Not a big fan. And on top of that, the kind of gradient look, and you know, I've got a love-hate relationship with gradients. They're not always bad, but I don't really like it. Essentially, it looks like they've kind of got the pattern and they've just stuck this gradient from the kind of pink to purple. I don't think it looks very good. I think it honestly, like, when you see the full shot there, I can kind of see the thinking. But then you've got the pink, which honestly just clashes colour-wise. That, you know, it doesn't look very good there. I'm not the biggest centralised crest guy as well, and actually just looking at this is the first one of that example. So this is a swing and a miss. Now it's not a bad shirt. You know, we do have a fresh idea here. Although the back is plain, yes, the pattern's on the sleeves, but this is one of my least favourites. Reagan says positive. Good stuff, Reagan. I'm from New Zealand and never felt compelled to buy one of my kits. Mate, I'm 100% looking to buy that one. I don't have many Kiwi shirts in my collection. I've got the 2018. That's one of my favourites. But yeah, I'm 100% buying. Well, I need to get my act together and find one in player spec as well before it's too late. I do really, really like it. Yeah, Andrew, I like this. Same, it looks like an ad for laundry detergent. yeah, that's a shout, mate. I could definitely see that. So all in all, like, you can't fault Adidas for trying something. And again, you know, the theme is interesting, but I think, yeah, the more I look at it, also, yeah, the crest. I'm not in love with this kind of application style. Of course, that has actually been the case for most, if not all, of the shirts. But even this is on the player spec, and you've got a very basic kind of patch crest with very little. Like that's a small note, but like I genuinely think this is a low kernel tier. Now it's not in the Ice Cube tier, and I think on account of the, you know, what we've seen from Adidas. I mean, I'm maybe being a bit harsh, but I really do think something around there feels right for me. Now Adidas, again, given the success and that pegging them back, we'll stick them here. They will likely move, of course, throughout the day. Ooh, Boss says your mic volume just went real quiet. Let's have a look. Now, is that because honestly, with the changes I've been making to my setup, I'm not convinced that I've quite got it right. If it's still, sorry guys, if it's still too quiet, let me know. I might just need to sit closer. Let me just try and turn myself up. Hopefully that, oh there we go. Hopefully that's a bit better. Apologies if I've just blown your ears off. Thank you, Brock. And guys, as we go through the stream, again, apologies to have to stop at this, but please do let me know if the volume's too loud or too quiet. Also, if the music's too loud, I can definitely turn that down as well. Yeah, keep me posted on that front. Right, let's get back to it. So that is the Spain shirt. Not a big fan, but there's better to come. Let's come to Japan now. Thank you, Ian. Thank you. Again, yeah, I do appreciate your input, guys. For some reason, and I think it's, for different reasons, I've not been able to get a consistent level. Yeah. Eric, good to see Eric. Eric's my newest supporter on Patreon, so shout out to Eric. Thank you for your support, Eric. If you want to join Eric, my details of the Patreon are in the description below. And I'm excited to say there's going to be a new shirt which I'm going to reveal very soon. All those in my Slack group on Patreon know what shirt that is. But I'm going to be kind of revamp the Patreon page, update the benefits and stuff like that. So that's to come in the coming weeks. But thank you, Eric. And he says, it's awesome to wake up to the Hot Wall coffee and shirts. Mate, that is what it's all about. Great. I've been many supporters and friends in the States and stateside, in Canada, and the US and other places. So, yeah, that's what we're here to do. Ease into your day with some beautiful football shirts. And talking of beautiful football shirts, this is a really good shirt. Now, we talked about kind of some of the pros and cons of this Adidas collection. I think some of the strength, like this one compared to the Spain one, this more kind of abstract look, which is based on Mount Fuji. I think that was the primary source of inspiration. Really, really strong. Now, what I would say is that I'm not as in love with this colour scheme as I am with Germany's, and to an extent even Belgium's. I think it's undoubtedly beautiful, don't get me wrong, and I do think this belongs in the pantheon of great Japan shirts. It continues that legacy. But I will say that this one didn't immediately grab me as much as the Germany shirt. However, it's still very good, and I think again, really good colour choices. I think again what separates this one from something like the Spain shirt, the trim just sits so much better there. And I think because the pattern is more abstract, and of course it's fully on the back, it just feels like a much more complete design. I kind of love the kind of cloud aesthetic. I think this one it's very close to the Volcano tier. I'm just going to leave it short. I would probably put it above the Columbia shirt. I think it there's a nice gap there, and that feels like where I'm going to place it. It's a very good shirt. Like, I think what's really cool about these Adidas shirts, even though I was talking up Nike, I can't deny that Adidas, like, they just have more top tier shirts, at least from an individual standpoint. I do think Nike, again, from a technology perspective, and certainly their crests were just better. I really like Nike Grind. Check out my Twitter if you want to find out what that is all about. But yeah, this is great. I mean, let's go here. I'm not going to go crazy over this one, but it's I wouldn't be surprised if people had this in their personal Volcano tier. Boxes, you need to come over for a match here. I do. I mean, all being well, I will be in Canada soon. I think I've said on the channel before, my wife grew up in Canada, or she spent a good 10 years in Canada, in Quebec. So we've got some connections there, and indeed I've got some relatives in Canada at the moment. So we're hoping to get over to Canada probably the end of this year. So yeah, that's the plan. Right, what else have we got? Obviously there's more. I don't know if it's on Football Shirt Collective's site. If not, we can go to another site, because they don't always have all the shirts. So it looks like we're going to have to get elsewhere. That is fine. Let's go to Adidas's press release site, and we can just grab the shirts from there. Again, pro tip actually, if you want to find, and this doesn't always work, some brands are better than others, but something just literally Adidas news, you can find their press release sites, and this is where you can get on the day of release high quality photos. Good for any of you content creators out there. Right, what have we missed? Now, we have missed a few. Argentina's. I mean, guys, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I absolutely love this Argentina shirt. I really like these colours. It's such an interesting colour scheme. It's one which I can't recall seeing on the shirt particularly, but it really matches this lovely kind of it feels almost a bit lifestyle to me. It's not what you'd expect in a match shirt. Pardon me, but I love the aesthetic, and I really like the asymmetric look. It's something which you don't often see. There's a bit of a novelty factor there, but I do actually think this is a winner, and it's probably my favourite of the collection. As much as I like Germany's, I think this one has to be in the conversation. Well, it's just straight up going in the Volcano tee, guys. I just really like it. I think the aesthetics of the pattern, again, we can't get a proper look because we don't have all the shots here, which is fine. But I think it's one of the slightly more abstract ones. But I think this one is even better than Colombia's. I quite like the breaking of the pattern. It's not just solid in terms of that, the kind of teal kind of stripes or brush strokes, which have a lot of kind of texture to them, much like the Germany and the Colombia shirts. But I think it's really successful. And again, the combination of that kind of almost like a mint with a kind of dusty orange, it's really good. It's really fresh. It's so cool to see a shirt like this, which again is a colorway which I just don't think I've seen on a shirt before, but it really works well. I think it complements as well, of course, the traditional Argentina home shirt look quite effectively. And even though it's not something we've seen before, I would be very happy to put this one. I mean, I think it's my favorite shirt I've seen this year, at least from what we've ranked on the Hot Wall. I really do like it. Let's go there. I think it's a great shirt. I think this is kind of the peak for me of what we've seen from Adidas. We will come to the have we done it? I think we did Italy's, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we ranked Italy's. Yeah, Italy are there. Jamaica, I think we ranked as well. And again, I'm just scanning through. If not, I think I'll need to backdate and rank them off Football Shirt Culture's list, I think. But anyway, in summary, well, I mean, Adidas have undoubtedly raised their stock. Now, again, we're taking into account all their shirts, so I'm not going to go, move them up right here. But without a doubt, this collection of Women's World Cup kits is a winner. Brock, just free ticket and tour for you waiting at Real Salt Lake. Thank you, my friend. Hopefully, I can take you up on that offer one day. Andrew said, between last year's World Cup kits and these women's, are Adidas on the hottest streak in kits? I think, Andrew, well, that's a great question, and I think it really is that kind of conversation. I would say, given how Adidas have put a lot of effort into their recent kits, in terms of giving bespoke features to teams, and more than that, I think just successfully launching the shirts, changing the narrative around Adidas in many ways. And I think things like, it sounds silly, but the new construction that they have for their shirts is excellent. As soon as I saw for myself Japan men's away shirt in person, it was stunning. It really was good. The three stripes, especially in the kind of material taping style, was so good. These shirts, they're pretty out there, but I think they're excellent, and almost all of them, I would say, are just superb. So a few, like 3 new additions to the Volcano tier, with a couple more just outside of it. That is how good. That's how much I rate the shirts. It's not exactly a hot take, because I think everyone agrees, or most people agree, it's a strong set of kits. But there we go. And guys, because we've still got time, let's go back to Football Shirt Culture's site and rank some more shirts. Let's just go from the top. One thing which I still need to do is backdate. There's still gaps in the rankings. I've been meaning to do that. Hopefully I won't leave it too long, otherwise it could end up being really out of date. We don't want to miss too much, but we are trying to rank every shirt, and we're using Football Shirt Culture because they're just one of the resources, but there's many shirts we could talk about. I'm going to take a very short break and then we'll come back. But that was Adidas shirts. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back and we'll do another hour or so of rankings for other teams and brands. Definitely some low ranking shirts. But we'll come to that very soon. See you shortly. Welcome back, everybody. Podcast, release your testimony video. Said yes, Buck. It's been so long. I've promised this for like a year now. It's next up, and again, for different reasons, I've had to delay it. But I will be. Well, I'm going to be recording it. It's either going to be tomorrow or Monday. I just need to figure out my schedule. But it is coming up. There will be other videos as well that are coming out. So I've got a couple of unboxing videos. But yeah. It is coming, and I can only apologise for how long it's been, but I'm excited to put that one out there. Yeah, so that is cool. Guys, let's get back to the hot ball. Let me get to our site here. So this is the wall as we've been looking at it, but let's add to it. Started with Sport Recife. Now, Umbro, a brand who I absolutely love in Brazil. But they're not without fault. This one is pretty underwhelming. You know, if I was to try and take a positive out of this shirt, I do appreciate that the black line here is actually part of the construction of the shirt. It's not just printed on. But that, you know, that's really kind of clutching at straws to try and find something about this one. It's very simple. You know, probably the funny thing is, I mean, yeah, there's the diamonds on the back, but that's just basic. You know, if this had, this is going to sound funny, but a really good sponsor, it would probably help this one. Not that it needs a sponsor, but it is just so simple that it's hard to put this anywhere above the Ice Cube tier. Now, often what you do see with Brazilian shirts is that clubs will actually then play with several sponsors, so the release photos will be sponsorless. We'll judge it as if it is sponsorless like this. I mean, the thing is, despite being essentially, I hate to say it, but it is in the plain white shirt category. I do actually, again, I'm being really like, well, what I will say, not only that, there is actually a very subtle jacquard on the sleeves. Now, I hadn't noticed that before, but looking at that again, that does help. Yes, the overall kind of look of the shirt is you know, underwhelming really at best. That honestly does give me cause to put this in the candle tier. Now, I'm still thinking lower candle tier, but were it not to have that jacquard, that subliminal pattern on the sleeves, this is an easy inclusion, I think, in the Ice Cube tier. But with that pattern, I do actually think I'd take it in this kind of region. This is hardly you know, I'm hardly singing this praises though. This is still below average, and Umbro honestly are a lot better. Boxers, did Belgrano come with a new shirt? I think they did release their home shirt actually, so I think we'll probably get onto that actually, which will be cool. Yeah, after I spent a lot of time looking into Belgrano for my video. So Umbro have been pretty good this year, but I will put them down, and you know, they're not without fault, as I say. They're not always as hot. That feels like a 70s shirt to the leg. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Kind coming on to Sport Receiver's home kit now. This one again feels pretty underwhelming. I mean, you know, there's some interesting details which I quite like, but because they're just simple transfers, the style isn't quite there. You know, the quality. This does look good. Design wise, I think that's pretty strong, but it could again be high quality. You know, look to, for example, MLS clubs do much better stuff most of the time. So this one, I don't know, it's honestly pretty forgettable. The details do help, even though the quality isn't there. And it's funny because I mean, a good spot. It's one of those things. A good sponsor would probably live this, but consequentially, is that the word I'm thinking of? I guess it is. A bad sponsor would actually knock this one down. You know, it could go either way, couldn't it? I would probably at this point, I don't think I could put it much above the away. I would put it above on account of those details. And I kind of appreciate that the back neck and jock tag are both in the kind of Brazilian colours. There's a nice consistency there. But this is largely pretty average, if not below average. We'll stick them just next to Palmeiras there. And I think I'm very, you know, based on those two kits, they're going to fall back into the pack, which is very crowded in this area. Andrew says, is it a weird shade of red or is it just mine? It looks a bit tomato soup coloured. I think it does look a bit weird, but then it is probably just these product shots. That looks like a much nicer shade, but then we come to the you know, the release pictures, and that's just really badly graded and really bad lighting. Just doesn't show off the shirt at all. What about Botafogo? Botafogo Football Club. This is one of the am I right in saying, isn't there another Botafogo? Yeah, so Botafogo de Futebol e Regatas. Not that Botafogo, I think. This is another Botafogo. Confusingly. But this is from our good friends Volt. I say good friends. I was largely quite down on Volt last year, but I will say this year they've well, if we have a look more closely, I thought Volt sponsored a couple of teams we've looked at. Maybe they haven't actually. Am I confusing them with someone else? Let's just check. Are they? Again, I was pretty sure Volt actually did a few lower league Brazilian teams, unless this is another one of the various own brands, which would be embarrassing, as I've just talked them up. Anyway, I was going to say I'd seen some good stuff from Volt, and again, I'm just checking our list here. Yeah, no, I can't see Volt, so ignore what I was saying. The biggest knock I had on them last year anyway was on the quality of the shirts. I do think there's been some improvements on that front. This design, it has the kind of Sao Paulo aesthetic. I don't mind it, and I do appreciate that the cuffs mimic the chest bands there. This pattern in the body is quite a kind of trendy approach. I personally would prefer it if the bands here were solid. But, you know, overall, this shirt actually has something about it. I don't mind that crest application style, you know, to be a bit raised and have a bit of texture. That's good, and something you don't often see from the smaller brands. So I'm left actually. I think this one has potential. Probably you'd like to see the collar mimic the cuff design. That wouldn't be a bad thing, I don't think. But again, lots of brands don't do that sort of thing. So overall, I could see an argument for this to be in the Flames tier, in all honesty. I would probably just put it in the Candle tier. But, you know, when I look at it, I think that's actually really solid. Like, we've seen, again, a lot of even bigger brands produce much worse. So, that's Botafogo and Volt. And if we just grab the shirt, I mean, let's just trim that a bit. There we go. Being a bit OCD, but Can't have it too wide. Yeah, this one. I mean, when I look at what sort of shirts we're talking about in this area of the counter here, honestly, the standard's not bad. We've got the Brazil away, the women's away, France away. So actually on balance, it's probably more in the middle. But respectable, certainly respectable from Volt. Again, they're not a huge manufacturer. And again, unless I'm going blind, and wouldn't be the first time I've missed a brand on here. Let's stick Volt on the. There we go. Come on, there we go. On the list, and we'll stick them there. We'll just see how we get on with them throughout the year. Again, just as a quick comment, actually, this is basically just all the brands as we go through. So there are some that are missing, and of course, as we go through, we're updating our kind of overall sentiment on the brands as we go through. But what about? Oh, I thought we had another one of those shirts. We don't. So there we go. That's the Botafogo home. I'm sure the away or the third will crop up later on. Ireland, Republic of Ireland, their away kit. Now, I don't know if we've ranked the. I don't think we've done the home. So the home is one of the ones that we need to rank. So this is actually going to be the first shirt from Castor. It's not exactly a unique take, but I must say I've generally been disappointed. Castor have a huge market share now. They've kind of risen from being essentially, well, they kind of came out of nowhere, at least in football terms, and now they have a huge market share with several top clubs, several notable teams, of course, in the Premier League, but elsewhere, and they've stepped into the international game now. I mean, there's very little to like about this one, I think. I don't think it's a bad shirt, but when I look at this, it's got the plain back, which is a big no-no. We talk about bad backnet details. That is as bad as it gets. Not just these kind of simple word details to me are just completely throwaway. But even just that font looks very, very just basic. If like again for a brand who has such a big market share, that jock tag is just bad, or the authenticity patch, whatever you want to call it. It's not really a jock tag, is it? Well, I guess it is. And I don't know if this is just the product shot. I think it is, but just the way that Castor logo fits there when the stripes aren't straight, and the way it sits, it just looks weird. The crest isn't great, but that's not Castor's fault. The sponsor doesn't look good there, but overall, this is just. I think this is probably the top end of the Ice Cube tier. One of the things which we do consider is, of course, even though I'm trying to be objective in all these shirts and rate them for the design purely, sometimes I will maybe subconsciously consider the status of the team, and sometimes it's even more disappointing when a team, a country like the Republic of Ireland, who are quite decent size, decent standing. It's the same story with the Napoli shirts that we're seeing, which are terrible, even the team are amazing. And it kind of hurts even more when it's an international team or a big club. So I think, I'm quite comfortable putting this one in the Ice Cube tier. Honestly, I don't see a reason why it shouldn't be. I mean, it could maybe sneak into the counter tier, but let's stick it. It's in the top end of this tier, but it is just bad, guys. I think it's shirts like this are the reason that Castor are getting a bad rep, because it's completely uninspired. Yes, they've flipped the collar and cuff design. That's fine, but it's so they've done pin stripes on a few of their kits, and it just honestly looks quite boring, quite dated. Reagan says, "Will you rate my Sunday League's new kit?" Reagan, I probably wouldn't put it on the tier list just because the hot wall. I try to keep it to kind of pro clubs, but absolutely send me. Well, probably the best way would actually probably be to send me a DM on Twitter. I think that's probably the smoothest, because I don't think you can easily share links, I believe, in the chat there. But yeah, do by all means send it over, and I can give you my thoughts, mate. Yeah, Brock says I watched US vs Ireland the other night, and the war is bad on the field too. Yeah, you know, it's quite cliche maybe to dunk on Castore, but it's not without reason. Now, Sporting Cristal of Peru. They've called it the Earth Day shirt. Now, I'm going to assume they're going to wear this on pitch. It's worth saying that, again, what I've just said, but just to confirm, we're not including shirts that aren't worn on the pitch. As far as we know, there might have been a few that slipped in, but we're trying to avoid that. Also not including goalkeeper kits, that's one thing to say. But otherwise, it's fair game. Whew, yeah, sorry guys. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at Sporting Cristal. First impression, reminds me a bit of the Ballad FC shirt, which I really like. I don't think that's actually on this list because that was from last year. But the kind of both the colorway and the aesthetic do remind me of that. It's interesting. I think it's hard to kind of get over the sponsor. That's the biggest thing when you look at this shirt. And again, I don't know if this is my internet or Football Shirt Culture's servers. We can use this one. There we go. Yeah, the pattern. I kind of like elements of it. And you can see you've got kind of some message in here. I think were the sponsor less... I mean, it's funny because they're called Sporting Cristal. I assume that is partly, the sponsor. I don't know how the relationship is with the company. If that's the name of the company that the team are named on or whatever. But, if it's like a kind of Bayer Leverkusen situation with Bayer. But anyway, we're going to move on. Someone will be able to tell me. So it's hard to kind of overlook that. It's such a dominating feature. I do think the overall shirt is quite nice, and I do actually quite like. It's not maybe the obvious choice, but the light blue looks good. The Adidas logo obviously matching the crest. So I do like this shirt as a whole. The sponsor is such a dominating presence that I think that keeps it probably from the hot tier. But I would actually say this is kind of a high candle tier. I think this kind of pattern is a very kind of trending idea where you've got kind of almost like a collage of different elements and looks like waves. I quite like this direction. I'd probably like it to be a bit more kind of joined together. It's a bit kind of patchwork. You can see some of the gaps in between the elements. Something like the Belgrano shirt, which we had the video on. But overall, I think this has potential. And despite the sponsor being so kind of in your face, I would be happy putting this one in the higher end of the calendar. So not bad at all from Sporting Cristal and Adidas. Not bad at all. I would actually genuinely consider it around here. I think that's there's a lot I like about this one. I just realised we didn't put Castore on the list, did we? So Castore, I'm sorry to say it, guys. I mean, they'll have plenty of opportunities to raise their ranking given how many teams they sponsor. And that, that's them. Did we do the last? Yeah, we did Volt. Where's there we go, that's Adidas. So, given Adidas they've shut up the board today, we will pay them back slightly, not too much. That's Sporting Cristal. Cavalry FC. Now, we talked a bit about Canada earlier. This is the Canadian Premier League team, Cavalry FC. Interesting look. Quite simplistic, but it is worth saying that lightning bolt fork does actually interact pretty well with the sponsor. They've allowed the maple leaf there to kind of sit in the middle, and that's a small but important decision, I think, especially when it's all one colour. And the trim on the collar and the cuffs is pretty smart. I believe that's their home shirt colours. They're kind of quite militaristic red and kind of army green, for want of a better name. It looks good. I actually think it would have been easy just to go for like a blackout design. I do actually think this looks better. And even though it is, tonal with the crest there, honestly, I think there's enough good decisions that this one probably doesn't make the hot tier, or the flames tier, I should say, but I think it compares pretty well to some of the higher end candle tier shirts. Again, it's a small thing, but had that lightning bolt kind of been more conflicting with the sponsor, it would have been easy to change that sponsor to kind of a different colour, which wouldn't have looked as good. But keeping that in the same colour and managing to get that, that fits about as well as it can, given that the lightning bolt is there. I mean, the lightning bolt itself isn't great. It is pretty basic. It's a bit stock imagey, but I don't think. I mean, again, maybe I was a bit premature saying high candle. Mid candle feels about right. Yeah, we'll go there. It's honestly not bad. Brock, no worries, mate. Thanks for stopping by. Catch you soon for another one. So that's Cavalry FC's away. Then we come to the home kit. So again, we talked about the colours. Here is the home kit. What have we got here? Interesting look. Again, we'll let the site load. Sorry guys, it's taken a while. We can judge it on this preview. Interesting. You've got a kind of vague, kind of red, almost like a sash, but it's not a sash, but a kind of cutout section there, and a silhouette of what looks like a kind of bison and some mountains and some trees. Interesting. I think it looks a bit cheap. It looks a bit tacky. There was already a hint of that with the away and the aesthetics of the lightning bolts. Not loving this one, guys. Not really too convinced. Especially, I'm all for subtle details. That one is very cheap. It looks, very kind of clip art. It's kind of. I would honestly rather see a nicely designed patch which incorporated some of these elements in that area of the shirt rather than this kind of silhouette. And the green, it's nice, and again, Macron are quite good with attention to detail. They will include things like, matching colour and cuffs. That's a typical Macron thing. But yeah, I think this one I would rank lower. I'm not sure if it's Ice Cube tier or low candle. I think it probably is Ice Cube tier, to be honest. As much as I appreciate some of the ideas, it does end up looking pretty cheap. I think Macron, because they are actually pretty solid, they've helped probably keep this one from being an easy include. Other brands, I think, they wouldn't have done the collar and cuffs as accurately. Probably would have messed up in other ways. I'm happy to say this is an Ice Cube tier shirt there. I mean, to be honest, when I look at this, it reminds me a lot of the Valor FC actually, with the claw marks. If you remember, this is going back a couple of months now. That was very tacky. I think this one has that kind of tacky element, to be honest. So we'll stick them there. And across the two shirts, so we had what was the away. I've lost that shirt. Here we go. Yeah, I think Macron have had a very mixed bag of a year so far, given that they sponsor so many teams. But we will have to knock them back for these two shirts. They will do much better, and they have done much better. Not a great combo, but it's not going to take long for them to redeem themselves, because there's some stronger shirts, and these are a couple of teams who have traditionally, in the Canadian Premier League's short lifespan, had some of the better shirts from the league. I'm talking about Halifax Wanderers and Pacific FC. So we come firstly to Halifax Wanderers. Let's come to the away shirt. There's a very interesting collar and cuff style here. What have we got? Again, we'll just have to wait for this to load. But it's worth noting again, these two teams, for whatever reason, have been a couple of teams which I've noted over the few sets of Canadian Premier League kits we've had. This looks great. Really, really like that aesthetic. I think keeping that on the collar and cuffs, whilst I'd probably like to see the entirety of the collar, is very strong. Sadly, the strength of that element of the shirt is kind of counterbalanced by the any long-term viewers will know I don't like this. The kind of the text written out in this kind of style, it honestly to me is one of my least favorite kind of design choices. We've seen worse, and it is quite subliminal, so from a distance it just looks like pinstripes. Ian says those Halifax Wanderers shirts show the value of a cool sponsor. I do actually quite like the sponsor as well. VW do sponsor a few teams, of course, but honestly, that looks good. I'd love to see it in the colours of the sleeve detail there. That would undoubtedly break brand guidelines, but and I do appreciate that you do. It's a cutout, so we do have the even though I don't like those words, we do see them behind the sponsor. But so there's some really good and some, for me, quite bad. I think that leaves me thinking it's probably just going to miss out. I might sneak it in the Flames tier, and that is, for a shirt with this kind of style of word. I don't have a good name for this other than just word-based subliminal patterns, which are typically some of my least favourites, or my least preferred styles. But I do really like the collar and cuffs, both from a colour perspective. I do quite like when you have quite a plain shirt, like a white base, but some pops of colour. It's a good combo. It does work well. And indeed, we've got quite a few kind of white shirts in the Flames tier. So I think albeit that the black shirts maybe have some of the the highlights or the strongest points, but overall, there's a lot. It's neck and neck between the two rivals there. If we can consider white and black kits rivals, I think we can. But anyway, I digress. Let's stick them there, just ahead of the likes of Italy. There, I think that feels about right. Eric says you should check the kits from York United FC. Yes, I think. Am I right in saying, unless I'm getting the club wrong, is that York United? And I'm really sorry if that's another club, because I could just check, and why am I rambling when I could literally just search for them? And I want to say that was their shirts, right? Oh, we've got an error there. I hope that is okay. I think that is on their side, but if the stream has dropped, do let me know, guys. I do find the Football Shirt Culture site can be a bit hit and miss. Yeah, let's try again. Can't even type. Days. Not even close. Not even close. Let's try again. So I think I'm right in saying it was that shot. If it is that shot, I really like that one, and indeed the away was also there. Yes, it was. So there we go, Eric. Yeah. Is that the home? I can't remember if that's the home or the away, but I really like the embossed pattern there. That added a lot of quality, and this one was great too. So a good combo, honestly. Even though they're not, on the highest tier. Very comfortable Flames tier for the green shirt there, on account of the embossed nature of the pattern. More Canadian shirts. It's been a good day if you're a Canadian Premier League fan, or indeed if you're a fan of shirts, because there are some good shirts here. It's a sneakily good league. MacCon have had the league-wide sponsorship since the league's inception a few years ago, and they've done a good job with it. They are typically some of the better MacCon shirts, or at least MacCon have put a lot of effort into them. It's not been a throwaway partnership by any means. And there's been almost an increase in diversity. There already was diversity across the league. Again, I think this is Football Shirt Culture site. If it is my internet, I do apologise. Right. I like it, guys. I mean, this collar and cuff style, despite being simple, I think is pretty effective in combination with the pattern, and I quite like the aesthetics of that pattern. It's got that kind of scribbled look honestly think it's pretty strong. I mean, this one, it's funny. The away is probably more of an obvious choice, given the more kind of dazzling collar and cuff pattern. But this one, I think, could make a case for being in the Flames tier, despite maybe not being as obviously interesting. Again, don't know why it's taking so long to load. I'm going to blame the site, but anyway. The pass on the sleeves. I think I'll probably say this isn't the Flames tier, because I would actually take it above the away, and that's despite I do really like the away collar and cuffs, of course, but I think this one feels like just a stronger kit overall. I think the pattern is much more successful compared to the word base pattern of the away, and it feels quite nice in this kind of region. So there we go. Ian says, I like that away shirt, even if it is a tad Leicester City. I assume you're referring to this, which is the home kit, unless you're referring to the away, Ian. But yeah, it does feel a bit Leicester City. But I think, again, I think the collar and cuff style is effective. It's slightly chunkier. I don't mind it. Don't mind it at all. And then we come to Pacific FC. So you can see what I mean by diversity. There's very little in the way of kind of borrowed elements. Even, Mac can have a huge variety of collars, and it really helps the shirts to feel more bespoke, to feel more like they're, they're tailor-made for the clubs. These two shirts are very interesting. This is very kind of Kappa from a few years ago, isn't it? We saw many Kappa shirts in this style, and again, apologies, I don't know if this is my internet. I've just recently upgraded it, so I'll be very disappointed. I could probably just test the speed, couldn't I, elsewhere? 1 second. Without hopefully taking too much time, I'm just going to make sure it is, my internet is fine. Let's test the speed. That's on the speed test. Yeah, we're getting 140 megabits per second. Should be more than enough for what we're doing. Here we go. So, across these two shirts, it's one of the most dazzling combos in the league. Really, really cool. I mean, the thing is, again, even though this does feel very Kappa from a few years ago, when they did, for the likes of Napoli and Tunisia, it's a bit of a rip-off of that. I like it. I don't think this is like, I'm not thinking anything near the volcano tier, but it would be hard to keep this one out of the Flames tier. But I think, honestly, because I feel like we saw this aesthetic done quite a lot by Kappa, like, I actually much prefer this shirt here. So I like this, but I think it's more of a high candle, despite how dazzling it is. I should have really moved Macron up and down a bit as well, actually. I should do this as I go along, otherwise I'll lose track. So there we had... Yeah, that was actually a pretty good combo. So we'll go like that for Macron. Yeah, so anyway, coming back to the Pacific FC shirts. So I'm broadly quite high on these two kits, but I would actually say this shirt is a bit better, even though the sponsor does stand out in the black. And the colorway isn't my favourite. It's maybe a bit too pale, particularly it's less. It feels a bit washed out as a colorway. But here for I assume this is the home. Let's have a look. I think it is the home. It's the purple one, right? Oh, sorry. I suddenly can't stop yawning. Let's rank these both. I think, again, if we do high candle feels right, like right on the board of the Flames tier, I think, for the purple. Whereas it's the opposite story in that I would actually nudge the away. I think I like that pattern a bit more. And I do appreciate, so when we looked at the Sporting Crystal shirt, I talked about the pattern not being broken up, and this is much more of a kind of repeating pattern. It looks good. It's a really interesting combo, and it's quite unusual and rare to see two quite heavily patterned shirts for home and away. Often it's the case that you get quite heavily patterned away compared to playing home, or vice versa. So, if you're a Pacific FC fan, you've got plenty to sink your teeth into. Thank you, Reagan. Thank you for an FSC is slow. Appreciate that. And Eric saying, yes, the home is purple. Thank you, Eric. Away is a big downgrade from last year's. Yeah, that is true. The away was an absolute standout shirt. I think that just missed out. If I remember correctly, that was like on the border of the Volcano tier for me personally. And for many people, it was in their top shirts of the year. So it is a downgrade. But I do like this one a lot. I think probably, I actually would probably take it in this region, which is quite a busy area. But I'm going to stick it there. I do actually really like it. But I agree, it's not it's not reaching the heights of last year's away. But overall, really solid. And I would say that again, Pacific FC and Halifax Wanderers, two teams that, like, if you had to give me a club now to kind of choose from purely from a shirt perspective in the Canadian Premier League, I think those two would probably be right up there. Right, guys, we'll do a few more. Then I'm going to have to end the stream slightly before when I was hoping to go till 4, but I've got a call at 4, so I do need to prepare for that. Let's maybe go for these two here, Dinamo Dresden and Vasco, and then I think we can pause after that. Now, that is if this is actually a match shirt, anniversary shirt. Now, I'm going to assume it is, but sometimes lifestyle stuff does sneak in to Football Shirt Culture's rundown. So let's take a look at the shirt. Try and glean any information. Honestly, it's unclear if this is going to be worn on the pitch. What I will say is, if it doesn't mention the shirt, the game it's going to be worn in, that usually suggests to me that it is just a lifestyle item. Now, what we can do, and it's worth doing since we've got a bit of time, I will look at Dinamo Dresden as a club, and we'll see if we can try and get any information. So, for example, see if we go to their pictures. Let's have a look and see if they wore the shirt at all recently. Nothing there. Again, this shirt was released on the 8th, so we might get some more information. I do really like is that their regular home shirt? I do really like that. It's great. So I'm not gonna rank this one just because I think it might not be one on the pitch. Of course, if we see it later, we will rank it. What I will say is it's got the mashup aesthetic, which Umbro are probably the biggest kind of proponents of mashup shirts. They do a lot of mashup kits. They've done a lot of mashup kits. This one, not too convinced. I'm not loving the dominance of that central band being in maroon. I don't mind it, but because it's slightly it kind of extends out as it goes along. Not digging the overall look, but again, we won't rank this because I'm not certain it's going to be one on pitch. Of course, we can come back to that though. But we will end with Vasco da Gama, a team who have traditionally had some very good shirts, like a lot of the kind of classic clubs in world football. Teams like Boca or Ajax, where you know what you're going to get. It's hard to innovate on a Vasco kit because you're always going to have the sash. This one is not too exciting. It's one of the more, again, even though we know what you're going to get, you're looking for some of those details, whether it's some of the patterns you might get or the subliminal details. This site, Football Show Culture, do seem very slow today. We'll try again. Let's try and load. Give it a minute or so. So, for me, I'm looking to things like, again, details. Obviously, the collar and cuffs can be a big area. This one feels very basic. I mean, to the point where obviously last year's collection was, very strong, especially the third shirt collection. This one just generally feels like a step back. Even the template or the construction, quite forgettable. I do appreciate that we've got the way the numbers actually do sit with the sash. They've not removed the sash on the back or anything, so that's good. But the collar is fine, but it does feel cheap, and it doesn't match at all with the cuffs in any way. There's none of that gold, so it's it's a pretty, like, as far as Vasco da Gama shirts go, this one is an easy, I think it's a low candle. Well, maybe mid candle. You know, the thing is, like again, like a lot of teams, a bad shirt for Vasco da Gama is still better than a lot of teams. You know, average shirts. The sash look is classic, although it is broken up by the sponsor, as is often the case. You can see a bit there. So left, you know, somewhere between underwhelmed and whelmed. It's it doesn't disappoint me too much. It's just simply we've seen much better Vasco da Gama home shirts or away shirts. Is this the away? I can't remember. Sorry, this is the away. Yeah, like there's nothing, like, again, we're looking for kind of quality details, and there's very little. You know, Kappa as well as a brand, they're pretty decent, but I'm not seeing, at least from the release pictures, the quality, the signs of quality in terms of material that I'd want to see. So there's a gap there. I actually think that's kind of where I'm going to stick them. And Kappa, if we try and find them on the, there we go. Kappa on the board there. I think all in all, we'll stick them maybe just slightly ahead of Macron. So ending on somewhat of a down note. But if we recap very quickly on today's Hot Wall, it's been a good day for Adidas. I mean, just straight up, Argentina, Germany, and Belgium all in the flame. Sorry, in the volcano tier, not just flames tier. I'm underselling it there. In the volcano tier. Also, some other strong efforts from the likes of Colombia and Japan. So, a very, very good day. To be honest, you know, again, we moved Adidas up already, but we'll just bump them up even more. Right behind Nike in terms of our overall rankings. Again, we're taking into account everything. So, Adidas and Nike, just on account of having so many teams, it's going to be harder for them to come up on the list. But, you know, great day for that. Also, some really strong outings and decent outings from a couple of our Canadian kits here. Notably, Halifax Wanderers doing the double in terms of Flames tier kits. But guys, that is the Hot Wall in its current state. I'll save it, and we will keep adding to this throughout the year. Shout out to some new faces that have joined today. It's been great to have you. In the last 5 minutes, any questions, guys, stick them in the chat. I'll be very happy to answer them. But otherwise, we will we'll begin to draw to a close. But it's been good to hang out, and I do appreciate your comments. Again, as I said at the start of the video, or the stream, I should say, do subscribe if you're new. If you have just tuned in, maybe through Twitter for the first time, it's always great to welcome new subscribers. Come along and join, and if you want to go even further and support me further, there's a range of benefits through my Patreon. Not only am I chatting in the Slack quite regularly, so you'll have my ear, but you get a free shirt, which is one I've designed, and it's actually going to be a new shirt. I need to update that. Thank you, Reagan. I will check out my DMs as the stream finishes, mate. Great to have you along. Yeah, there's a range of benefits. If you live away from the UK, but you want basically someone to act as a proxy, as in I'm happy to receive and send shirts on. I do that for a few people. So again, there's just different benefits. There's a community of like-minded collectors as well on the Slack group. But yeah, check that out in the description as well. But thank you, guys. Eric says thanks for this channel. Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate your support on Patreon, and indeed everyone who's just tuned into the stream. It really does help. You know, we don't get necessarily big numbers here on the streams. You know, maybe we're in the 10s, sometimes 20s on a big day. But I just enjoy hanging out. I enjoy chatting with you guys, sharing some of the highs and lows of football shirts with you all. So thank you, and I really appreciate this community. Yeah, unless there's anything else in the final seconds, I will sign off. See you very soon. I will see you. I've got a few videos coming up. A couple of unboxing videos and my long-awaited video where I'm sharing my personal testimony on my faith, which was off the back of an event I did last year. I'll share more, of course, as that one goes on the channel. But thank you, guys. Yeah, I'll see you soon. I'll chat to you on Twitter. Big day today in the football shirt world with the Premier League announcing the effective banning of front of shirt gambling sponsors. So big day if you're into collecting shirts. But anyway, we'll talk about that on Twitter or on here for another video. Thank you guys. Have a good one and see you very soon for another stream or video. Take care.